This is the French national champion we're talking about here. Admittedly, Phil, he had a badly timed flat tyre, but he's trying now. He's surviving. He's wanting to stay in contact with the main field because the race is getting hard now. These are what, in cycling terms, we call really heavy roads. It's difficult just to keep rolling along.
No chance of recovery now. He's going to have to really chase.
Yes, he will. He'll take advantage of the top of the climb there and take a few risks on the descent. He's got some respite before we start to line up for Home Firth. Home Firth is right at the very bottom of the climb over Home Moss. It's a long climb, Home Moss. Difficult climb, open to the elements as we start to get up towards the summit. And that's where I think we'll start to see a little bit of a sorting out. The climb of Home Moss is almost 5 kilometres long from the side. The riders are going to attack it today, and it knocks in at a very pleasant 7%, thank you very much. But up towards the top, it kicks in at around about 10%. I think we'll see a few fireworks going off.
And there'll be plenty of witnesses as well as the riders continue to come over the top of Greekland. And then we just continue as we leave Huddersfield. We'll head out into the country again. And then we will find ourselves going to the little village of Home and on to, first of all, we get Home Firth, then we get the climb of Home, and then we go straight up Home Moss, which is a zigzagging climb, by the way. And reportedly, we're going to see more than a few people on it.
Now there's a tough man that we haven't talked much about there, sitting on the front from IAM Cycling, Sylvain Chavanel. Now he's the kind of rider.
New colours for him.
Yes, well, he's had to go back to the old team jersey this afternoon, but he's still got the red, white and blue on his sleeve, indicating former French national champion. But he is once again the national time trial champion of France, and he is the kind of rider who would enjoy a circuit like today's finish. So watch out for him to do something rather special before we head back to the continent for the restart of this race after 3 glorious days in England. But let's not forget, we've still got to go to Buckingham Palace tomorrow.
Yes, and we are going to see amazing scenes on the roads of Cambridgeshire and down through Hertfordshire and Essex tomorrow as we race into Buckingham Palace. But today it is the day for Yorkshire. It's the end of 2 magnificent days in Yorkshire, impeccable organisation, and the people have supported it 100%.
They have the 7-man breakaway. Although there's not a chase behind, look at the gap. It's getting eaten away all of the time. It's down to 1 minute and 19 seconds now. This is action at the back end of the main field. Heavy legs are starting to appear on the sprinters, I would have to say. That's Demar in the red, white and blue. Just a couple of riders in front of him is Andre Greipel, and he's the German national champion. He is also finding a little bit heavy this afternoon, but now the urgency is appearing in the peloton. They're taking this very, very seriously. They're not going to ride all the way to Sheffield and have a fun little sprint. This is going to be a battle.
You know what, Sylvain Chavanel there is in second place, dead centre to right now. He's a likely candidate to win this type of a stage. It's the sort of stage he would love to win. He's worn yellow in the Tour before, but at the moment it's not a good time to remind those riders at the back. We're still 19 days away from Paris, because I think they're going to regroup and not catch the peloton again today.
Andre Greipel, second time in a row he's been the German national champion. He's a tough competitor, and I think he was very happy to win that title. He was up towards the top in the sprint yesterday, 18th on the stage, 18th overall. But for him, I think he's finding these roads around Yorkshire just a little bit too heavy as he tries to stay in contact with the main field. Can't remember the last time in today's stage when there was not a bunch of spectators at the side of the road. They seem to have been along the whole route this afternoon for the 120 kilometres which we'd covered so far. Dropping back there from IAM Cycling was Jérôme Pinault. Obviously dropping back to pick up some liquid fuel for his teammate Sylvain Chavanel, who's at the front end of the peloton. We're now back with a leading group of 7 riders. We've gone around the top part of Huddersfield. We'll now be heading down towards Home Firth and Home, and then looming on there's Huddersfield in the distance. As
we peer down amongst the trees here, we're in Huddersfield now from the helicopter. The riders are racing into Huddersfield. Once they leave Huddersfield, they have the circuit race here 2 nights ago to entertain the crowd. A little warm-up, an hors d'oeuvre if you like, before the Tour de France arrived in town. Well, it's here now, and it's only 74 seconds behind the 7 leaders.
Well, it would be, Phil, I have to say, probably remiss of me to say that this pretty much is the cradle of rugby league. It's the home of the Huddersfield Giants, and it's also the birthplace of Lord Harold Wilson, who was the British Prime Minister way back in the 1960s.
He represented Huyton in Liverpool, which is a bit nearer our hearts, I guess. But we're now looking here at the leaders who've held them off since the 0 kilometre of today's stage of 201. We're now just got 75 left, but we still have climbs to come. Well, I can go back to the first tour I was reporting back in 1973, Paul, when he started in Scheveningen near The Hague in Holland. And we thought those crowds were big because we had a job seeing the riders leaving town. But boy, these have got to go down as record numbers for the Tour de France. They really have. 56 seconds is the gap. The catch is imminent. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen before we get to the climb of Home Moss, which is about the nearest you will see on British roads of an alpine climb, because it zigzags its way to the top.
Yes, it's the highest spot of today's race, climbing up to 521 metres above sea level. That's around about 1,800 feet. But it is a long climb, Phil. It's 5 kilometres in length, an average gradient of 7%. It's wide open spaces over the top, and there are people been camping up there for an awful long time to experience the excitement. Interesting to note that the world champion is riding in 3rd or 4th position there in that white jersey with the rainbow bands around the middle, Rui Costa. A lot of people have put him down as a favourite for today's stage, and he would enjoy that. He's being looked after by the Portuguese national champion, Nelson Oliveira, so obviously he is looking for some kind of victory. He put a great performance in on the final day of the Tour of Switzerland when he came out to get the victory, because he ripped that jersey, the lead, away from Tony Martin, who looked like a possible winner until the last few kilometres. Meanwhile, the 7 leaders who escaped after the first kilometre of the race have found it rather interesting this afternoon, and we'll just go through their names one more time before we start to see them get pulled in by the peloton, because it's down to just 49 seconds now. Blaise Cadry of France, Bart de Klerk of Belgium, Peric Kemener, the Frenchman from Brittany, Mathieu Boucher of the United States. He's on the front right now in that black jersey. Cyril Lemoine in the dark green jersey, France and a Europe car. David de la Cruz, Spain and Netap in the blue jersey, 203. And Armino Fonseca, who is from the Bretagne Sèche Environnement. These riders have led this race for 130 kilometres almost, as they now start to get to the grippy part, the serious part of today's race. So they'll leave Huddersfield behind them, and now Home Moss on the horizon. Peloton, they're at 45 seconds, 750 metres. They split up to go around the traffic circle in the middle of town there and come back together. Nearly every rider in the Tour is in that group at 44 seconds.
This, I feel now, Paul, is a very nervous peloton. We know these riders have said the roads are too narrow, but then the man that was the most vociferous was Marcel Kittel. He won the stage yesterday. I think he's changed his opinion now. But these boys know if they're going to win today, they know now they cannot drop back. They've got to ride this race in the first 20 or 30 men and no further back, because the challenges are going to come at them thick and fast.
Well, that's why the speed in the main field has been dramatically pulled up. There's no chase. They're not chasing down that breakaway. The breakaway group is actually just being pulled down by the natural evolution of the race, because the speed is becoming so high in this group of riders we're looking at. The yellow jersey, who is a sprinter, Marcel Kittel, is over to the right-hand side there. He must be worried a little bit about the approach of these dramatic climbs a little further on. Garmin Sharp in the pale blue jerseys there, with Johan van Summeren right at the front end of that.